Hey, everybody, this is Harriet Westmore. I am the life coach of the More to Discover coaching services. And I'm also the host of the podcast More Self Discovery, the podcast where you discover yourself through your life's journey. So I just wanted to come on briefly to kind of talk to people who are having the holiday blues, so to speak. Um, I know it is very hard this time of year for a lot of us because unfortunately we may have lost a loved one during this time of year, or even if you didn't, not this time of year, but you've lost a loved one, and this time of year brings up the realization that that person is no longer here to celebrate the holiday season with you. Or you may be single in a non-relationship and you feel like you're lonely. But I just want to just come on and just say this. You're not by yourself. You can be in a relationship and still feel alone. Okay. Um, you may be in a situation where you just feel like that you just have nowhere to turn. You feel like you're just down and out. Don't let the commercialized hype of Christmas, get to you. Christmas is not about, spending a bunch of money that you don't have. Come on, let's face it. We may spend a bunch of money for presents, for people that, don't even really deserve it. Or, really it's just so commercialized because of the fact it is the holiday season. It is that's part of the tradition that you go spend a bunch of money or run up your credit cards for gifts that a lot of people don't even appreciate anyway. But if you have kids, you know I know that's hard because kids, a lot of younger kids, they don't understand why mommy or daddy doesn't have the money to buy them what they want, or for Christmas. But just know that you are doing what you can, for their basic needs. Kids are very resilient. We don't give them credit that they deserve because kids are very intuitive. All they want is your love, and let them know that, no matter what, that they might not have the, video game or whatever, the PlayStation or whatever, but you know, you they have you as a parent and that you love them so much. And that's, that's something that a toy can't replace, is a parent's love for their children. Um, for those who are in a single relationship, or or a relationship who you don't have a loved one or um a partner or whatever, like I said, previously, sometimes you can still be, you can have a relationship and still feel alone in that relationship. But don't feel like you have to have somebody. I want you to take this time to have a good talk with yourself. Use this opportunity of being by yourself to kind of reflect over the past year of what you have accomplished and what you want to accomplish for the next year. upcoming year. And just focus on a goal. Either you could have 3 goals, but, even if it's just one goal, just write down or think about that one particular goal that you just said, "You know what? I've been putting it off for years and years. Put it off for a while. I'm tired of, putting it off. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it." Let me give you an example of a goal that I had, and I was just determined. A few years ago, think right now my kids they're adults now. Um, but it was a time when my youngest, my son, he was a teenager. So I think he was about 16 years old at the time. I was working as a corrections officer for a all male state prison facility. My husband, he works. His job requires him to work rotating shifts. And that year, our daughter, she was already, moved. I mean, she's already grown and out of the house. So we still had our son, who was a teenager, 16 years old. I've always, no matter what job I've had, I've always was home for Christmas Eve. Always. Until I became a CEO. And as a CEO, sometimes if anybody out there who's a corrections officer and works in a prison or jail knows how it works. If somebody from the previous shifts or the shift that's supposed to be after you, I work second shift. So I work from the 311 shift. And if somebody calls off for the third shift and there's nobody to cover that particular post, then that means that person, the lowest person on the totem pole from that the shift before them has to stay over, what we call froze. Well, I was the lowest of the totem pole. I worked second shift, and somebody called off on third shift on Christmas Eve, and so I had to get froze. So that which means I had to work 16 hours. I had to stay over, work my shift, second shift, and then work another 8 hours over into third. And this was Christmas Eve. And just so happened that my husband's work schedule was also third shift. So he wasn't going to be home. So I wasn't home for Christmas Eve. My husband wasn't home for Christmas Eve. We both worked third shift. My 16-year-old son was home by himself. You know, I guess, looking at from the teenagers standpoint, that would be a good thing to have, both your parents gone and you're a teenager. But it really wasn't. It really wasn't. I can't describe how I felt. To just to, you're finishing up your shift, you're ready to, go home and, salvage what's left of that evening, which was going into Christmas Day, only to be told that no, you gotta stay because we're short. And you seeing everybody walk out on, your fellow coworkers leaving to go home, and you have to stay. You don't know how pissed I was. I was pissed. Um, and at that point, I made a I vowed to myself, and I asked God. I said, "This will be the last time I'm going to be in this uniform. I'm getting next time this time next year, the following year, I will be out of this uniform. I ain't never ever going to have to go through this again. Only good thing about it that came out was, I had it was an easy night. Um, they needed a officer to sit because there was an inmate that was in a medical. He was in the infirmary, so they needed an officer in the infirmary to make sure, to watch over him. Luckily for me, he slept all night. There was medical staff there, but they needed an actual officer, and he slept all night. So I mean, I didn't have to do nothing but sit there at the desk all night. But still, you know, it was. I just said, I, it- forget this. Next year, this time, I will be out of this uniform. I made double and a half. As far as overtime, but it was just the thought that I had to prepare for dinner, for my Christmas dinner, and just so happened, luckily, it was going into my 2 days off. So Christmas Day and the day after Christmas, I had those days off. But still, the Christmas Eve, you know, I'm always home with my kids. And coincident, and one thing about my son, he did not go to sleep at all that whole night. My son will not sleep at all until he knows that one of his parents is home. And the fact that, even though he was a teenager, I don't know, I guess it's that, kids have that sense of security, when if, one of their parents is home. So my son was not able, he didn't even sleep that night. He, pretty much, as he told me, he, pretty much stayed in his room and played on his Xbox all night with one of his friends. But he didn't go, he really couldn't sleep because he knew neither of his parents were home. So, I that my goal was to get out of that uniform. And in that spring of the following year, I got out of that uniform and was able to move on, transfer into another position where I had weekends and holidays off. But my point was, I set my mind, I had a goal, and I was planning from that point on. I was not going to be, stuck with this again, with a holiday like that again. And I worked that goal. So for those who have a goal that you've been putting off, that you wanted to do, but just don't want to come out of your comfort zone to do it, this is the time to do it. It's now or never. Use this time that you're by yourself. Write out specifically what your goals are and how you want to achieve that goal. Give yourself a timeline of achieving that specific goal. As a life coach, I'm here to help those who have goals to reach their goals. And I'm like a accountability partner. So if you need an accountability partner, then, I can be your accountability partner. It's about, I've lived it. I know what you feel. I know how it feels to, keep procrastinating. But then again, I also know what it feels like to get, be determined to do this no matter what people tell you. People may, family members may tell you, oh, I don't think you should do that. You know what you don't, if it's in your heart to do something that you've wanted to do, you can't let people sway you to do, something that they feel that you shouldn't do. Stop being we can't be a people pleaser. It's time to stop all that because life is short. You might not have that opportunity to fulfill, your dreams. You might not be here. We all might not be here this time next year. So while you're here, use this time to, you know, make that step. Make that first, when you make that first step into planning to achieve that goal, do that one task. I'm telling you, everything else will fall right in line. It will. And let me, if you need a help, or if you need help structuring to kind of, help you break down, goals, you can break it down into measurable steps. Don't, make some overwhelming goal that you can't achieve, not within, 6 months or anything like that. Don't do that. Make it something that's attainable and achievable. And if you need help, to do that, I'm here to help you. So I want everybody to just turn off all the naysayers, turn off all you know, the chatter about, oh, you're alone, you're not, you're by yourself. Okay, so you're by yourself. It's not the end of the world. This is the beginning. Let this be the beginning. This is your time to revamp yourself and be the best that you can be. So stay blessed, stay focused, and stay healthy. Bye.